Paperclip, bins and pins. Welcome back to Sound the Siren. I'm Xavier.
I'm Dylan. Welcome back to another video. Today we are going to review the first and second round of the NBA playoffs. A few surprises, and I say we should just get straight into it.
Do you want to start with the East or the West, Dylan?
Start with the East.
All right. So the first game, the Bucks versus the Magic. My MVP for that game was Giannis. For that series was Giannis. He was really good, scored a lot. Obviously, grabbed a lot of rebounds. Played like the regular season. My disappointing one wasn't actually a player, but Jonathan Isaac's injury was obviously a horrible blow for the Magic. He was good for them before he got injured in the regular season and just got back and then got injured again. So that's no good for them and quite disappointing.
Yeah, if I was Orlando, I'd be more than happy to take one game from the Bucks, who were the first seed. A bit underwhelming in that series as well. I don't know. I just didn't think they flourished like they did in the regular season. But yeah, my MVP of that series too, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and then my playoff P award. It's come to that name. I love that name. My playoff P award is going to be Chris Middleton. He only averaged 15 points a game, and it was on 36% field goal and 37% from the three. So he had his struggles, but in the second round, which we'll get to in a bit, he definitely turned up. The next series we'll move on to is the Raptors versus Nets, and as expected, the Raptors ran away with this series. 3 out of the 4 games were blowouts. The best player was definitely Fred VanVleet, 21 points per game, 8 assists. And alongside him, Norman Powell was a breakout player, shooting 60% from the floor and 45.5% from three.
My MVP for this series, I found this one probably the most difficult. Couldn't really decide. I think VanVleet was really good. Lowry was really good as well. Just a good team performance from the Raptors. As you said, they blew out the Nets in 3 of the 4 games and swept them. But yeah, so my MVP pretty much the whole team.
Yeah.
And my disappointing player, Caris LeVert. I thought obviously a lot of the load was on him, but I think a lot of people had maybe the Nets taking 1, maybe even 2 games from the Raptors for the sole reason of Caris LeVert. And he couldn't get that done. Obviously, no one saw them winning it, so it's not that bad. But yeah.
I know you say he was disappointing, but he still averaged near 23 points a game. So do you just think he could have taken a step up and maybe shoot the most shots?
Yeah, I think towards the end of the series, he wasn't taking as many shots. I don't actually have the numbers in front of me, but yeah, he was good, but I think a lot of people had him averaging like 30, 35, which obviously is incredible, except he was really the only player on that team. So
My playoff P award was Garrett Temple. A bit of a role player, not very well known, but he only had 12 points per game on 34% shooting and 25% from three. So a bit disappointing, and some of those role players were actually really impressive. Tyler Johnson, the ex-Heat player, he was good for them. And also Kurucs was kind of handy. Just stopped down low a little bit because Gasol has been quiet as well in this playoffs.
very, yeah. The Celtics versus 76ers, though?
So the Celtics 76ers, I was totally wrong about it going to 6 games. Philly are pretty deplorable apart from Embiid, who I know for a fact that his shoulders are sore, averaging 30 points per game, 13 rebounds per game. But Tatum was definitely the series MVP. He averaged 27 and 10. The playoff P award, it was kind of difficult because there was really a lot of people on that team who were struggling, and even some for the Celtics, but because they won, I'll give it to Philly. Mostly as a team, but in particular, Al Horford, he averaged 7 points, and Tobias Harris, who's getting paid 180 million to hit 2 threes in 4 games.
Yeah. Uh, I had it going to 6 as well. I had it going to 7 until Ben Simmons got injured, but 6 after we heard that news. My MVP was Jason Tatum as well. He was very good, and as were the Celtics, obviously sweeping the 76ers. But my disappointing as well was Tobias Harris and Al Horford. That takes up a lot of their salary cap, and neither of them really turned up to play at all, and ultimately were the reason they got swept, I think.
I think Thibault needed to take a few more shots as well,
Mm.
just because he was making them. He only had 3 or 4 a game. So if they can implement him in their game, I think they'll be more balanced, and then the perimeter struggles will start to improve. The
Just
next,
quickly doing,
yep,
we were talking just before we hopped on the podcast about Buddy Hield reportedly. requesting a trade this offseason to the 76ers. There's been a few photos that have come out of him in 76ers jerseys and stuff like that he's liked. Do you reckon he'd be a good fit at the 76ers?
I do, because they had the perfect team 2, 3 seasons ago, and they've lost all those role players. You've got JJ Redick, Ersin Ilyasova, Robert Covington, Dario Saric was really impressive back then. So they just need guys like that who can shoot the three and play some D as well.
Yeah,
So
and that's 100% what Buddy Hield is, 3-point contest winner. So they can get more shooters around Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. I think they can make some noise in the East and maybe even in the league. So, yeah.
I think Buddy Hield's severely underrated as well. He does take a lot of shots, but when they go in, he's a serious threat to all teams. The Miami Heat versus the Indiana Pacers. I really did not expect it to be a sweep. I thought Indiana would have taken a game or two. They put up a good fight, but Jimmy was easily the MVP of this series. His leadership is immaculate. The playoff P award, it's going to go to Victor Oladipo, who only shot 40% and 36% from the three.
Yeah, I think I had this game, going to 6 as well. I thought the Pacers would make a bit more noise, but yeah, it wasn't very good. Obviously, they got swept. My MVP was Jimmy Butler, but also the Heat. I think they're actually a really good team now, and they work so well together. All of the pieces fit and mesh really well. My disappointing player was TJ Warren. I think he was all right, except he got hyped up a lot after some of the bubble games, obviously, like the next Michael Jordan and all this stuff. But he was good, but he didn't live up to the hype that some people were placing on him, unfairly or fairly.
I was actually watching a Jimmy High Roller video the other day, and it was about how players can have their 5 minutes of fame. And it was talking about how TJ Warren, he had 5 games in a row where he averaged about 35 points per game, and everyone just started treating him like it was the new Jordan.
Yeah.
So why do you think that is? Do you think everyone just wants a new player just to be that standout?
Yeah, I think the NBA, more so than any other league, is a star-driven league. So when fans start to see players playing well, they like to hope that they'll continue their stardom and become stars. But as we've seen, that's not always the case with players like Jeremy Lin and obviously now TJ Warren. People can fizzle out. I think TJ Warren's obviously still a good role player, and he'll still be a good player on the Pacers, but he's not the next Michael Jordan and probably won't be an all-star.
You don't think All-Star? I think he has the potential to be one, but I'm not too sure. Depends how it goes.
Borderline.
Yeah. We'll move to the West. What was a real competitive playoff series, all four of them. The least competitive one was the LA Lakers versus the Portland Trailblazers, and Portland did well. They took a game. The theme for the second round as well. We'll get to Houston in a bit. But the MVP was definitely LeBron. He averaged a cool 27 points per game, 10 rebounds, 10 assists, so a triple-double for him. AD, though, he averaged 30 points per game. So I guess LeBron wasn't easily the best, but those two will always be standout players.
Yeah, I thought this series would be a little bit more competitive than it was. I think it was 6 games I had this going to, and I thought the Blazers would be a real threat. But the Lakers took care of business, winning it in 5. My MVP was LeBron, obviously averaging a triple-double, best player in the league, GOAT, and the GOAT things. My disappointing player was Danny Green. He struggled to hit shots all series and just struggled, and maybe still struggling a little bit, but getting better the further it goes into the playoffs, but definitely did struggle a little bit. And KCP in the first game was also very, very bad, but he got better throughout the series as well.
And that's really the difference maker. I think I said this in an earlier episode. If they can hit down shots, then they'll be a serious threat.
100%. It's if the role players can stand up and hit shots, then they'll be very good. We saw in the Rockets game, Marcus Morris was hitting shots. We've seen Rondo take over games. When Kuzma plays well, the Lakers play well. So we know what we're going to get from LeBron and Anthony Davis, and it just depends on what we get from the rest of them.
I think you got your Morris brother mixed up, Markieff.
Yeah, I did.
The playoff P award for me was Danny Green as well. He's had his struggles, and if he can come to terms with making the shots, there's going to be a few more blowouts, but a good conference finals coming up.
Definitely.
Next series, we'll go the Clippers Mavericks. A great series. Luka, his buzzer beater was unbelievable. We got a rare double bang from Mike Breen, a great call. And I think the series MVP has to go to Kawhi. He averaged 33 points per game, 10 rebounds, and he just led his team through the 6 games. Luka as well, unbelievable, 31 points per game, 10 rebounds, and almost 9 assists. And the playoff P award, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Paul George, he had his struggles. He shot 36% from the field and 27% from three. So, but he's been better over the second round for sure.
Definitely. My MVP was also Kawhi. As you said, I think he was averaging over 30 points, but I really would have liked to give it to Luka because the Mavs didn't get over the line. I couldn't, but he was so good. I think he proved in the playoffs that he is the real deal, averaging over 30 points and almost a triple-double. I think it was a little bit disappointing this series. I think the Mavs were very good, but with Porzingis getting injured for the last couple of games and getting ejected in the first game, I think that really hurt the Mavs' chance. But they did really well considering everything that went against them.
Yeah, no, 100% agree with you. Porzingis was definitely the biggest blow. They really had no one to fight Zubac and also Marcus Morris.
And Montrezl.
Yeah, and Montrezl Harrell. The six
My
man, by the way.
disappointing was also Paul George as well. Obviously, was very bad at the start of the series. Like very, very bad. Not bad for a superstar, but bad for a player in general. But he got better towards it in the last game, and he's getting better still. So they need him to be at their best to beat the Lakers. So or the Rockets, if something magical.
Denver versus Utah. What a great series this was. I said this would probably go to 7, but I did not expect Utah to blow a 3-1 lead. When it got to 3-2, I started to sense some momentum, but geez, I thought Utah was in the box seat. The MVP has to be none other than Jamal Murray, but Donovan Mitchell versus Jamal Murray is probably the greatest battle in the first round we've seen for a long time. Jamal Murray called 31.5 points per game on 55% field goal. Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, this was probably the best series of the round, I think. Obviously went to 7 games. I thought this would be really close, but I did have the Nuggets winning. And after it went 3-1 to the Jazz, I wouldn't have had the Nuggets winning, but I did at the start of the series. Obviously, Jamal Murray and Donovan Mitchell were both incredible. I did see a stat, I think Michael Jordan, Allen Iverson, Donovan Mitchell, and Jamal Murray are the only 4 players to have multiple 50-point games in a series, and 2 of them did it in the same one. So that was incredible. My disappointing player was Rudy Gobert. I think he needed to stand up in the last 3 games and get the Jazz over the line. But I think it also really hurt the Jazz that Bogdan Bogdanovic wasn't there, and I think he would have helped close the deal for them.
Yeah, absolutely. My playoff P award was Torrey Craig, and he almost blew the game for them. He missed a layup on a fast break with about 5 seconds left. A mad ending to a Game 7. And another Game 7 was the Thunder versus the Rockets. Really happy, or really impressed with how OKC played, and I'm kind of in disbelief that they fired Billy Donovan. Your thoughts?
Yeah, also just on the firing, I forgot to mention the Pacers also fired their coach. I thought that was a bit strange because they struggled with injuries all year. Obviously, they didn't have Oladipo for most of the season, and then they got Sabonis was injured in the playoffs, and they had a bit of issues coming into the playoffs with Oladipo not wanting to play and people not playing and then playing and people getting injured. So it was a bit strange that he got fired, and I was a bit confused. And then again, Billy Donovan, I didn't see that coming at all either. So hopefully he gets a job somewhere else. I thought he was top 3 or 4 for Coach of the Year, but
yeah, I think I had him in my top 3. Maybe I did, maybe 4th or 5th.
I think I said the top 3 and he wasn't in it, but I did give him an honourable mention, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it might have been you. I think Nate McMillan's firing was just a build-up of the last 4 years. They've lost to the Cavs twice, maybe 3 times even. And last year they got swept against the Celtics and a sweep again. So I know the fans weren't too happy with how McMillan was coaching, but still a bit stiff. The Rockets versus the Thunder, the series MVP has to be none other than the Beard, James Harden. Without Westbrook for most of the series, they managed to take the first 2 and then lost the next two, but they came up clutch. James Harden almost 30 points per game. Still struggled with his shooting a bit, but managed to get to the line, which is what he does best. The playoff P award has to be Austin Rivers. He averaged 3.4 points per game and 2.7 assists and 23% field goal percentage with 19% from the three. So he's definitely a good player when he wants to be, but he struggled in that first round immensely.
Yeah, my MVP also James Harden. Very good, as we can expect from him, I guess. But I want to give a shout out to the Thunder. They were so good all series, forcing 7 games. That was incredible, and I didn't really see that coming. My disappointing player was Austin Rivers, just like you had. Yeah, not very good. I think the Rockets struggled to put him in spots in which he could score, and I
Mm.
don't have the numbers again, but I don't think he played that many minutes. And also Russell Westbrook, I think, was pretty disappointing as well. Obviously, he was injured at the start of it, and it's not very fair for me to say that, but he came back after the suspension or the hiatus, and he wasn't good in the games that he did play. But he's a superstar, and we know what we'll get from him in the future.
I think Jeff Green's been really good for them as well. He helped the Cavs in 2018. Really one of the only players that backed up LeBron, especially in Game 7. So he's had a history of being a really good second player or third player,
Mm.
and he was good. Also, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is going to be unbelievable in a few years, when he
One of
develops.
my favourite players in the league. Also got the best fashion in the league, so that's pretty good.
The semi-finals we will move to, and the first matchup we'll have a look at is the Bucks versus the Heat. I'll let you say a few things because I don't want to be too biased here.
Uh, my MVP, I said for the other game that the Heat was my MVP, but this one definitely the Heat. Their defense all series was incredible. Jimmy Butler, Jay Crowder, Iguodala, Bam Adebayo. They had so many bodies that could switch on to Giannis, and they guarded him so well all series. So my MVP, just the Heat's defense as a whole. And my disappointing was Giannis. I think he struggled. He got injured. I don't know when he got injured. He didn't play Game 4, or the last 3 quarters of Game 4, and he didn't play Game 5 either. So
Mhm.
that wasn't very good. The Bucks did well in the end to avoid the sweep, but not good for them. I expected them to win, and they didn't. So we'll see what happens in the off season. There might be some interesting moves, but I expect Giannis to stay.
Yeah, there was questions going around with that Winslow trade earlier in the season, but definitely Crowder was the underrated aspect out of that trade. He's been unbelievable. He's knocked down threes consistently, and Iguodala as well. His experience and his defense is coming into play. Jimmy, my MVP. You said the Heat. I'm just going to say Jimmy, just because I watched every game, obviously, and he was unbelievable. He flicked the switch in Game 3 when they were down 16, I believe it was. And Goran Dragic as well, who was
Yeah,
impressive.
big off the bench, yeah. And Tyler Hero as well was also big off the bench. I think the Heat, they're such a deep team. I really like them. I think, obviously, I didn't have them winning at the start, but I look at them now and I think, like, I should have probably picked more games. But yeah, they're so good. They've got so many players that can switch onto the bigger bodies, as I said, and so many scorers. Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, they're proper shooters. Kendrick Nunn can score the ball. Gordon Dragic can score the ball. I think they're a good team. Obviously, they've got 2 All-Stars as well. So
We'll move to the West, and the 1 seed plays the Rockets. Currently, Game 5 is going on. I'll get a score update for you in a second. How do you think your Lakers have been going, Dave?
I think they've been good. I think uh, obviously LeBron and Anthony Davis have been good. I got the score here just for you. 88-69 is the current score.
Yeah.
Balls. Um, yeah, Anthony Davis, LeBron have been very good. As I said before, Markieff Morris lit up the Rockets in Game 3, I want to say it was. Maybe
Lining
Game
him up right now too. 4 for 4 from 3.
Yeah, 16 points. Caruso's been good. Rondo has been
Mm.
incredible for the Lakers. He closed out in one of the games as well. I'm getting them all confused, so I'm not even going to say which one it was, but he closed out one of the games for them and scored big in the last. Kuzma's been all right. KCP's hit shots, but my MVP is Anthony Davis and LeBron James. They've both been very good. I'm going to give them a co-MVP.
Yeah.
And my disappointing player is...
Westbrook.
Yes, Westbrook. He hasn't been very good, especially in game two where the Lakers blew out the Rockets. They didn't even bother guarding him on the 3-point line and just let him drive to the ring. And he didn't shoot it very well because he did settle for 3-point jump shots. But as I said before, he's a superstar and we know what we'll get from the future. So he should look forward to next year and try and build something better.
Russell was really thriving earlier in the year when he didn't take the threes, when he pull up for mid ranges, when he drove to the hole. That's when he really did come out, complimented hard and nicely. The Raptors versus Celtics, the game seven that happened yesterday. I think Siakam will cop a bit of criticism, but last year he was unbelievable, so I think it's a bit harsh to go at him right now.
Yeah, my MVP is Jason Tatum. As he was in the first round, he was very good, scored a lot for the Celtics, and they got the win in 7 games. Also, shout out to my guy OG Anunoby who hit the game winner. My disappointing player though is Siakam. As you said, he's very good, and he was one of my favorite players, and I love how he's continued to improve in each and every one of his seasons.
Mm.
But he wasn't very good for the Raptors, and I think there was a reporter that said something along the lines of, "How do you feel knowing that you cost the Raptors the victory?" So I think that was a little bit harsh and probably not what he wanted to hear after a disappointing loss. But I think the Raptors are a good team and they're still young, other than like Kyle Lowry and their centers. But I think they can be good next year as well and be interesting.
Marcus Smart cops a bit of slack for his flops, but geez, he's really impressive, and I think he has to be the X factor for them, especially if they're going up against Jimmy Butler. He'll try to defend him. I say try, but he will probably do a good job on him. He's got the
Yeah,
heart.
definitely. I think he's probably the best. Him and probably Drew Holiday are probably the best guard defenders in the league, and he was big for the Celtics, and yeah, as you said, an X factor. We've seen sometimes you can hit uh, a ridiculous amount of threes in a short period of time, and if you can do that in the conference finals, it might spell trouble for your Heat.
Hmm. Jalen Brown, tremendous as well. So we can now predict the conference finals. I think we'll just assume that the Lakers go through, and we didn't talk about the Clippers. I just realized. Do you want to say a couple of things on that series? It's still going. Denver have put up a good fight.
Yeah, that one was interesting. I thought Denver, had a few chances in the series. Game one, I think that they got blown out good and well, but game two they fought back, they got the win, and I think game three and four they've had chances, but didn't. Game three they were leading, I think, at 3/4 time, and then game four they were down by a lot and came back. I think it was 2 points was the closest in the end.
Mm.
But game five
It was
they also
yesterday.
won. So they were down 3-1, and they came back and won it. It'd be incredible if they can come back from being down 3-1 twice in the same playoff series.
Hmm.
That's never been done before, but I don't think it will get done. But if it does, it will be incredible.
Absolutely. The conference finals in the East, we can definitely talk about. Miami versus Boston. Your predictions?
My predictions are not very good. Apparently, I didn't get either one of these ones. I had the Raptors Bucks in my conference final prediction in our bracket video, which we might have a link to in our description, hopefully. Um, but yeah, I think this will be an interesting series. Obviously neither one of them I had, but I think I'm going to have to go for the Celtics. I talked up the Heat a lot. Obviously, I said they got a lot of bodies that switch onto bigger players, but that's not even what the Raptors really bring. The Celtics really bring. They've got a lot of guard play. Obviously, Kemba and Jalen Brown, as well as Gordon Hayward. They'll get him fit,
Mhm.
and hopefully he'll be playing in the conference finals. Marcus Smart as well. Obviously, the X factor that we talked about just before.
Yeah, I really don't know. It's a tough matchup. Miami have beaten Milwaukee, which surprised everyone, but whether or not Milwaukee was just underwhelming or Miami were extremely impressive, which they were in a couple games. So definitely an interesting matchup. It could go either way. The
Yeah.
West, Lakers versus Clippers, we predicted. I said Lakers in seven in the bracket video, spoiler alert. And I think I'll maintain that thought. Maybe, oh, geez, it's really tough. It's going to be a great battle. I've been waiting for it all year.
Yeah, I think I said the Lakers in 7 as well. Once again, spoiler alert. I think I think they've been really impressive. The Lakers, obviously, they've only dropped the 2 games, both in game 1, and the Clippers, I think, have been underwhelming. I think
Mm.
they have a genuine opportunity to lose in the first round against the Mavs, but obviously Porzingis got injured. And then in round 2, I think, as I said, they had chances to blow games to the Nuggets, but they are, in my opinion, they're the better team. So, as I said before, they've got the deepest lineup in the league.
Mm.
I said if they were versing the Lakers, probably 8 of the best 10 players on the court, maybe seven or 8 of the best players on the court would be Clippers players. So it'll be really interesting. I think the Lakers, they got the chemistry. Obviously, the Clippers have struggled to get their team fit, whether it be Kawhi or Paul George sitting out, Lemon Pepper Lou going for some wings, or Montrezl Harrell with his grandmother's funeral. They haven't played many games at full strength. Even they added pieces at the trade deadline. Reggie Jackson and Marcus Morris were also big pieces in their lineup. So it'll be interesting. I think I'll stick with the Lakers in 7 though.
I think the playoffs is all about matchups because you see Houston, they struggle against OKC, and then first game against the Lakers, they win easily. And in the East, you've got the Raptors, who probably would harm the Heat more, but just got taken down by the Celtics. So, yeah, people
Yeah,
say it's based off of seeding, but it's definitely about matchups.
I do agree. It's matchups a lot. Like the 76ers from the start of the season, they were building some super team that was going to match up really well against the Bucks. And the issue was they got to the playoffs and they didn't even verse the Bucks. So they had size. Obviously, Simmons, Thibault, Harris, Horford, and Embiid were all players that could switch onto Giannis at times. And yeah, they didn't even get there. So, but in saying that, the Clippers do match up really well against the Lakers. I think Paul George and Kawhi, even Patrick Beverly and Marcus Morris are all bodies that you can throw at LeBron.
Well, the good brother matchup too, versus Marcus versus Markieff.
Mm.
So that does it for this video. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Nothing from me.
So we should have another AFL video out. This one is coming out as the Lakers should defeat the Rockets. So conference finals will be organised as of tomorrow if the Clippers win. And that really does it for today. I'll put a link in the description for the bracket video. Let us know who you think will win the championship from this point on. And thank you for enjoying, and catch you next time.